So perfect for winter, we're gonna be making a snowman painting, except we're gonna be making this painting using no paintbrush with paint. We're actually only gonna use paint sticks for this, and then we're gonna use water with a paintbrush. I'll show you how that's gonna work. After we use our paint sticks, we're then gonna go in with oil pastels. So this is gonna be a really fun project where we use lots of different art supplies. So the first thing we wanna do is we wanna pick one color. It could really be any color. It doesn't have to be realistic, but we're gonna pick one color to draw our snowman, the circles for our snowman. You might choose pink, you might choose blue, you might choose green. Again, snow is white. So we're gonna pick a color and use our imagination for this. Now, when we use paint sticks, they almost look like a glue stick. Okay, so they have a cap like a glue stick, they look like a glue stick. So we wanna make sure that we roll it up just enough so that it's above that plastic piece. If we roll it too high and we go to draw with it, it's gonna break. Okay, and if it's rolled down too short, it's not gonna work. So we want it just above the plastic piece. And you're gonna go ahead and make 3 circles. One at the top of your paper, one in the middle of your paper, and one at the bottom. And we're gonna start the top one being the smallest. So we're gonna draw a circle that looks kind of small. Okay, and if you want to leave some space on top, that's probably a good idea because we might have other ideas to do after we do the circles for like a hat or something like that. Now I'm going to move to my middle circle and I'm going to make one that's a little bit bigger than my first one. Okay, and snowmen do not have perfect circle shapes, so they could be a little off. Don't worry about making your circles perfect. Now my last circle shape is gonna be the biggest, and I'm gonna make my biggest one underneath the other 2, okay? Now the last step of this part is I'm gonna go over each of my circles a couple of times. Do you see how much paint is on that from the paint stick? I wanna make them really dark, okay? And I'm gonna go over this one as well, one more time. Okay, I've got my 3 circles. They're really nice and dark. Now the last part of using this paint stick is we're gonna draw something called a horizon line. And a horizon line is gonna show where the snow on the ground meets the sky. So you might have your horizon line down here. You might have your horizon line up here. I think I want to make mine a little shorter, and you could make a straight line, a bumpy line. That's totally up to you. And I'm going to draw that as if that's the snow on the ground. And again, I'm going to go over that a little darker as well. So at the end of this step, you should see 1 circle, 2 circles, 3 circles, and a horizon line going behind your snowman. Now, when I'm done using my paint stick, I want to make sure it's rolled down just in line with the plastic so that when I go to cap it, I hear the click and it closes and the paint inside is not squished and ruined. And that's the best way to keep our paint sticks nice and clean. So now this is going to be the part where we make our flat circles on our snowman look 3D. As if they're spheres, as if they're popping out from the page and they look as if they're not flat anymore, but like you could actually touch them and they look round. So we're gonna be creating a shadow by adding a little shadow to the side of each of our circles. So the first thing we wanna do is wet our brush, and we're not swirling it and splashing it. All you need is water to get on that part. So you're just gonna wet your brush. That's it. And then we're gonna go on one side of the snowman. Let the water sit. Take your brush, go on one side of the snowman. Let your water sit. And then on the other one, dip your brush, paint on one side of the snowman, get it nice and wet, and let it sit. Okay, we're gonna count to 10. That way, all of those paints are nice and wet. And now the next part is we're gonna drag that paint a little to the middle. Now I'm gonna wet my brush just one more time, and I'm gonna start to drag some of that paint over to the middle of my snowman. And you're gonna see that it starts to make a little bit of a fuzzy line. Okay, and that's gonna give it a little shadow look. I'm gonna take my brush again, drag some of that paint to the middle of my snowman. And it's gonna give a little shadow effect. You'll see it looks a little bit more like it's rounded now. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the bottom, wet my brush and drag some of that paint to the middle of your paper. Okay, and you're gonna see some of the colors of the paint sticks work a little easier with this, but they're all gonna work. It just might be some are a little lighter, some are a little darker, but it will work with all of them. But some of the colors, it just might be a little darker than the one I'm using. But that's okay. I like it nice and light, and I like how it starts to still make the snowman pop out. Now the last part we're gonna do with the water, wet my brush again, and we're gonna just bring down a little bit from the top of the ground. Wherever you did the ground, bring it down just a little bit, and you're gonna see too that that's gonna make it look a little bit more 3D from the ground so it doesn't look super flat. Okay, so I did those steps for the snowman, the ground, and I'm gonna let that dry. Now the next part, we're still using the paint sticks, but we wanna now not use water for it. We're gonna use these just to draw our big details. So when I say big details, it might be maybe big snowflakes in the sky, it might be a scarf, it might be a hat. Those are big things we're gonna draw with these, just because the top of these paint sticks are a thick line. Anything that you want to be skinny and smaller and thinner, you're gonna draw that for the next step using oil pastels. So I'm gonna start out with this dark blue. I'm gonna do some snowflakes in the sky. So again, I'm gonna take the cap off, I'm gonna put it just above the plastic, and then I'm gonna start to make any shapes, any big shapes that I want for the snowflakes. So I think I'm just gonna make kind of like these circle shapes. And again, you can use whatever color you want for this. Okay, I did my larger snowflakes. Make sure that I roll this down so it's in line with the plastic. Put the cap on, make sure it's clicked closed. And I can do that for the rest of the big pieces. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna paint a scarf, and I'm gonna paint a hat. So I actually added the hat, the scarf, and I decided to put a couple of buttons just because I wanted them a little bigger, so I decided that the paint stick would be a good choice for that. So that's all I'm gonna do with the paint sticks. Now I'm gonna go in using oil pastels. And again, like I said before, the reason I'm switching over to oil pastels is because they are much thinner and they draw skinnier lines for any of those little details that I want to do. So I'm going to go get the oil pastels, and then we're going to add that next part. Now, the key to using oil pastels is, remember, they're going to be a little messy. Okay, so you just need to be a little aware of where you lean your hand when you're drawing. Your paint is gonna dry very quickly. This kind of paint takes only about 2 minutes to dry, but this can smudge. So just be careful of where you're leaning your hand, and you can always rotate your paper when you're drawing things on the top of it or on the side of it or in the middle. You can rotate it to make it a lot easier to draw. Now there's really no rules for this because again, this is a fun, happy, colorful snowman. You're gonna take whatever colors you'd like, and I just decided to draw some little like star shapes, star designs in the sky. The only thing you wanna really make sure of is that you go nice and neat, because as soon as we start getting a little messy, it's gonna turn our art into something that's a little hard to see, because oil pastels take a little control when we're using it. So take your time, go nice and slow, and think about all those different details you want to add. I'm gonna finish the sky, and I'm also gonna start to add some details to the actual snowman. I finished adding all the details that I wanted. I added a little expression to the face. I added some things to the background of the snow. If you want to do something totally different, you can. Maybe instead of a hat, you want to put earmuffs on. You can put little gloves on the ends of your sticks for your arms. I added a shadow here just to make it look like it was reflecting off of the snow. So think about all those fun things that you want to add, and let's see these fun snowmen or snow women that you come up with.